Still being here
Keep your
from
remarks
another
nice,
council
please.
asking for it
Nice
again, and they don't
remarks.
have the background to know
Positive.
that we lowered.
Good.
Yeah, they'll be
Council, we
positive,
ready?
all right.
I'm ready. Welcome, everyone, to the city council meeting of Centerville City, being held this May 16th, 2023. We welcome staff that's here, members of the public that are here, presenters that are here, both in person and over technology. Let's do a little roll call to make sure that we have a quorum here, starting with Councilwoman Meekum.
Meekum here.
Summer Hayes present.
You in here?
So we have 3 of the 5, so do have a quorum present today, and so we will move forward. Let's start with legislative prayer or thought from Councilmember George McEwen.
So tonight, I'm going to do a 2-for-1. I'm going to respond to a constituent email that was, they were very impassioned in what they wanted to tell me, and also talk a little bit about Memorial Day coming up. This constituent was concerned that they see when I when I'm doing the Pledge of Allegiance in City Council that I'm saluting, and they pointed out that I'm not in any uniform of any kind, and therefore I should not do that it's disrespectful to the flag. I will counter by saying, as a decorated combat veteran whose war has never ended, I reserve that right to myself to continue to do that for multiple reasons, because I believe in the ideology of what the Pledge of Allegiance says for the nation that I've served, and for those who are no longer with us, who have served diligently to protect the freedoms that we have. A lot of people have forgotten that Memorial Day is a holiday that started out in 1868. It was actually the veterans of the Grand Army of the Republic that decided they wanted to decorate some of the graves of the fallen soldiers of the Confederate War. And in that Civil War, there were many who lost their lives on both sides, and there was a lot of feelings that came along with what should be done as an appropriate memorial. And it was actually called Decoration Day, and it was set for May 5th. But General John Logan suggested that it be May 30th, because by that time, most of the spring flowers would be in bloom across the country, and that would be a fitting memorial. And this is from part of his standing order from the declared May 30th, 1868 as the Memorial Day. With the choicest flowers of springtime, we should guard their graves with sacred vigilance. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no neglect, no ravages of time, testify to the present or to coming generations that we have forgotten as a people the cost of a free and undivided republic. As time has gone on since that horrible Civil War, we've lost war soldiers and armed forces to the point where 1.1 million Americans are lost to us in the defense of this nation. And unfortunately, we still create Gold Star families every year. So as you come upon your observance for Memorial Day, I would ask you, don't think a veteran. We're still here. Go and pay honor to those who have fallen. Find a flag, find a grave that a veteran needs decorated, or veterans will help you decorate or point you in that direction. But let's make sure that we're honoring those who've paid the ultimate price. When I salute the flag, I often think about Lance Corporal Stevenson, who fought in the same conflict that I did and who was killed in action. If he were here today, he would probably be 2 years my senior and a grandfather by now. But instead he paid the ultimate price. So when I salute the flag, I think about all of those who've passed on and are no longer here to enjoy the sacred privileges that we have garnered as a nation. And it's this time that we are so divided and we've become so hyper-focused on who is right and who is wrong, I would ask that this Memorial Day, think back to those ideals that hold us together and remember that as a people we are strong and as a nation we are stronger. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that message. Less than 2 weeks away, everyone, to take a chance to remember those fallen war heroes and fallen family members, that sort of thing. So thank you, Councilmember McEwen. All right, with that, let's, if you'd all stand and repeat the pledge with me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now's the time for the open session. This is a chance for anyone in attendance or coming in by social media to express opinions, make comments. We would encourage you to keep your comments to a couple minutes. There is nothing on a public hearing matter tonight, so if there's any, so I wouldn't tell you to reserve your comments for a public hearing portion. So that open session is now open for someone who would like to do it. If you come forward, just state your name and where you're from.
Mayor, as an open session comment, I believe as a council member, I'm still able to make an open session comment.
We don't even make you go down there.
No?
Yeah.
I know this is unorthodox. Lisa, is that okay? It's not on our agenda, so I thought I'd bring it up as an open session comment.
It's not the intent of the open session.
Okay, well, if that's not an intent, I won't say it. Now you're telling me I can't? My only comment for the council's consideration is this: I think for the 4th of July, tradition has held, typically there are some members of council choose to or not choose to be a participant in the parade, but there is a clause that doesn't allow potential candidacy elections to go through that same parade. So I worry that there is even a perception that a council member could use a solo car drive as a campaign re-election type of a. My preference would be that we as a council and the mayor all be on the same float. Anyways, that's my public comment.
Thank you.
No
state,
discussion.
State your name.
Spencer
and-
Summerhays.
Is there somebody else coming in to make a comment?
How's Bill?
Oh, okay. Seeing that there's no other comments from the public, we will move from the open session and let's go to the presentations. We're excited about these presentations. I'm going to let, on this first presentation, Leadership Academy graduation. We see a lot of plaques here, but I'm going to let Brent give us a little background of what our staff was doing. Brent.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate that. I'm excited to announce we had 15 of our employees go through the Professional Development Academy. This was a process that I looked into when I first started. I think there was some opportunity for our employees, particularly our supervisors and department heads, to have an opportunity to learn a little bit about leadership training, and not necessarily questioning their leadership training, but just an opportunity to learn more about themselves and to expand and to challenge themselves to be better leaders. As I think it's a continual effort, no matter what position you're in, to be a better leader. So I was looking for the right opportunity for our staff to expand their leadership opportunities. So I saw different type of programs where there's like a 3-day training course and a boot camp, or another course that maybe is a month long, or you can attend this one session. And really what I was looking for was trying to find that permanent impact that it would have on an employee. And what that requires is a training that goes beyond 3 days or even a week. So Mike had been really good about pushing me because he really wanted to get some training for his employees as well, saying, Brant, we really need to get something. And so as I was continuing to look for the effort, I came across this program at an ICMA conference called the Professional Development Academy. And I know a few of my colleagues had gone through the training, and I had inquired and says, how was it? And they says, it's probably one of the best we've been through. And I've been through a number of leadership academies and programs in the past that I thought were very helpful in my development and growth. And so this opportunity came up. We were able to get a discount if we had so many go through. And that's really what it came down to. So we looked at potentially the 15 of us, and I went through it with them to see what they're learning and what they're learning about, and so I could be a part of the program with them. And so really this was kind of a voluntold, and you'll hear that potentially from few, maybe Lisa, there was this is an opportunity and I really would like you to go through this. And so there was some resistance, I think, early on from some employees. Others were excited about the opportunity. But I would dare say everybody learned something about themselves. And this program is 12 weeks long. What it does is you have trainings throughout the week, videos you watch, exercises you go through, And it's just about 5 hours a week for the 12 weeks. On Thursday, you have a breakout group where there's 5, 6, 7, 8 of you that meet together. There's about, 120? About 120 participants that we're going through this with. And so every Thursday, we get together for about an hour and meet with our little cohort and discuss what we learned through the week. And then somebody on the next Friday would report for that group to the entire, live event. Everybody report that group's discussion. So it was really, I found it very valuable in having an opportunity to meet with those in our group. Lisa and Steve Hunt was in my group, and I learned a lot more about both Lisa and Steve. And it was really a good opportunity to get to know them on a different level and a leadership level. Also, what we did on the Friday live event, since there's so many of us going through, we would host here a luncheon, whether it was bring your own lunch or maybe we brought in lunch, but we'd have everybody here at the council chambers to watch the live event, and then we'd have a follow-up afterwards. What did you learn? Just have our own little breakout group. And I found it extremely valuable, and I think this is one of the best leadership trainings I've ever gone through, and I'm glad so many of our employees were able to go through it. A lot of the training is focused on Colin Powell, and I'm actually going to read a couple of his rules. He talks about, really based around his, thanks for giving me this book, Bryce, because I had it written down, but there's 13 rules that he focuses on, my 13 rules. And I'm going to go through the 13 real quick. And again, this is the basis for the entire program. The number one is, it ain't as bad as you think. It'll look better in the morning. So give yourself a moment, sit on it, and the bed, next day will be better. Second one, get mad, then get over it. Number 3, avoid having your ego so close to your position that when your position falls, your ego goes with it. 4, it can be done. 5, be careful what you choose, you may get it. Number 6, don't let adverse facts stand in the way of a good decision. Number 7, you can't make someone else's choices, you shouldn't let someone else make yours. Number 8, check small things. Number 9, share credit. Number 10, remain calm, be kind. Number 11, have a vision, be demanding. Number 12, don't take counsel of your fears or naysayers. And number 13, perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. That was a big focus when we talked about the beginning, was being optimistic and coming into it. We bring your own weather is a thing you'll hear quite often, is if you come in with a bad attitude, that's how your day's going to go. And I think, and Mike's group has been great about, they'll make these comments over at Public Works to each other, you bring your own weather or whatever the case might be. And Mike's been, I think, probably the biggest advocate of this whole thing, and I hope he gets up and shares a few of his thoughts. But I've asked 3 individuals to come up, give just a quick testimonial how it's impacted them. Steve Hunt, Alan Ackerson, and Dave Walker. Steve, would you lead us off? Are you okay with that? Sure.
All right. So one of the things I learned from this leadership training was to be concise, so I'm not going to take very much time. But no, I want to thank the City Council for funding it. It was really good for me. Just the background that it's been almost a year now that I've been the water supervisor, so this was very timely for me to get this training as I'm in this new role. And I think anytime you learn something, it's good to learn. So any training I get that you guys want me to get, I'll gladly do because I like to learn. So Brad already talked about a couple of things I was going to talk about, but some of the things I learned are how important it is to listen and how to learn how to listen to different people, because everybody speaks on a different level. For example, my crew is very diverse that works in the water department in age and in what we do. I'm the only grandfather. So it's good to know how to approach them and how to listen. And sometimes I'll go to lunch with a guy and just listen to him. Or sometimes I'll go work on a project with him and just listen to him. And so I feel by doing that, you get to know them and you can help coming to work be a positive experience for them every single day. Being patient is an important part of being a leader. Learning how to change. One of the things we learned through the program that reminded me of things I've learned throughout my life is we need to be authentic and be who we are all the time. I believe the reason we all have the roles we are is because of who we are. So we need to be authentic to who we are, but we also need to be willing to change and learn from others. And how we do that and how we, I guess, institute change is by going through the small victories. As we're doing a major change, as we're going through the process with our fellow employees, we talk about the little victories that we get so that they can see that, hey, this change is working, and hey, we're going in the right direction. So celebrate those. The best leaders are the best learners. That's another thing I learned. And then he talked about be careful what you choose, because that's probably what you're going to get. And one of the things we did throughout, and I actually updated, we called it our oath leadership throughout the whole program. As we developed kind of our ideal of what the kind of leader we want to be, and I thought I'd just share a couple things. Number one, be honest. Every day in everything that I do, not just at work, and that's how I am, and I need to be authentic to myself and be that way. And then trying to help others, looking at ways to help others grow and progress. My goal is when I leave someday, years down the road, any one of the guys that works with me can take my position, and it'll be a seamless transition. And then Brant already talked about this positive environment. Kind of joke around, and Dave and Mike could testify to this, that I'll come into work Monday morning and say, hey, it's Monday, and everybody's, had a fun weekend, and not everybody's super excited to be there. But I try to do that every single day when I come into work. So, and I think that positivity carries over, because not everything we do is fun. If you're out in a snowplow truck at 2 a.m. or fixing a broken water line in January, it's not fun. But if you have the right attitude, you get through it, and in the end, it all works out, and people still have a good experience. So thanks for letting me do the training.
Steve, thank you.
Council, and I'll just apologize now, I have something going off my lungs, so coughing all day. But the high performance leadership training, we tend to get probably more leadership training in the police department than other areas of the city. And so I was the only participant from the police department on this round. But I do hope it goes forward, because our other supervisors and up-and-coming supervisors for the police department could definitely use this leadership training. General Powell is definitely an insightful man, and each week when we were listening to snippets from him and other people from the academy, we learned a lot. And one of the things they had us do was develop a leadership plan. And part of that plan was to develop a leadership oath. And so each of us did that. And so I'll read to you the oath that I developed. And it says, I will be direct, honest, and respectful with all those I interact with. I will acknowledge my faults and shortcomings and seek feedback and always strive to improve. I'll see everyone as individuals and treat them accordingly. So for me, as I've developed through my career, it's knowing what I don't know, right? And knowing when I've messed up and recovering from that. And so that's my hope, is that I keep developing and create an environment that people can feel comfortable coming to me and calling me out on my mistakes and issues. And then, like Steve had talked about, that everyone are individuals, and you need to treat them like that, right? And the other thing General Powell taught, well, I don't even know if it was General Powell, but one of the kind of the mantras for the class was the saying, what got you here won't get you there. And so all of us have developed through our careers into positions now of leadership and supervision. And if we keep doing what we've done, that's got us here, it may not get us further. I don't know if you're familiar with the Peter Principle. It's something I've brought up before with the other class members. But where it says what employees will rise to their level of incompetence, right? So if you're in a position and you do well at your position, you're probably going to get promoted, right? So you go into another position. If you do well at that position, you might get promoted again, up to the point where you are no longer competent, right? And if you're no longer competent, you're not going to get promoted, and so you're remaining in a position that you're not competent in. And if everyone does that, then we end up with everyone, unfit for their position. And so that leads me to my leadership oath, which is another thing we had developed. And let's see here. Oh, no, not the oath. It's the scorecard. Sorry, they had us do lots of little things. So the scorecard is kind of how you gauge how you're doing as a leader. And so one of my scorecards is, if I left today, are others trained and ready to pick up the slack? Right? So are all the people under me, the 4 sergeants I supervise, are they ready to become lieutenants? Right? Are they ready to not be incompetent in the next position they get moved to? So, and I know I've gone long, so I'll wrap it up real quick. I implemented some of the things I've learned through, we had to take an empowerment assessment as participants in the class. And so I actually passed that assessment on to the 4 sergeants I supervise as a direct feedback to me, right? Do they feel empowered by me and the leadership of the department? So I did an anonymous Google survey to them and got back some really good results. Good in the feedback was actionable and I can learn from it, but not necessarily good as in I may be doing a good job. So there's definitely some room for improvement there. And then we also developed another kind of questionnaire that went out to the patrol officers where they had a chance to give anonymous and detailed feedback on their supervisors. And so right now, all our supervisors are going through that kind of growing pain of receiving honest feedback. So these are a couple of the ways where I've implemented. But this is, a great training. I think a good use of city funds, and I'd like to see it go. Keep going. Thank you.
Good evening. I am too grateful to be able to come and talk about this a little bit. I was grateful to have the opportunity to start the day with PDA, which was a slogan that was taken away. He needed somebody to say it, so welcome. Because the Professional Development Academy, of course PDA, really helped jumpstart a lot of our days. It initiated conversations, and I do applaud the fact that we did have so many of us doing it at the same time. The reason behind that is because it really is helping us lay what I felt was a foundation, because you have a lot of these discussions taking place between, as he said, 15 people throughout all the different departments across the city. So now as we come together, we have these unified objectives and these visions of the way that we could see things moving forward. And so I think it helps us join forces where oftentimes we feel divided, from department to department. We got West Side Centerville, East Side Centerville. We all know it exists, and that's okay. But now we have this unifying leadership training and these goals that we're all have this joint objective to work for. So I do applaud that. Also, Brent was probably hoping for somebody to be honest and say it was brutal, exhausting. These aren't all me, but these are real comments. Long and oftentimes redundant. But it all came into play. I mean, you had all the homework. Some people hadn't done homework in 20 plus years, for real, right? All of a sudden you're saying do this homework. So this was initially very overwhelming. But in the end, everybody I talked to, everybody I've seen, shares the same thing, that they do feel it was worth it. You heard a couple of great examples from these guys, and you'll probably hear other topics. So it was pretty challenging that way, but it ended up being very fulfilling, inspiring, as some other quotes that I took from people as I kind of threw this together real quick. Again, with the OLS, we did do our OLS, and so mine will be kind of brief, and I'll just touch back to it real quick. The key point for me was to lead, not manage. I'll pass that for a second. Be authentic, honest, patient, and consistent. I felt like those were things. As I wrote my oath, I looked at people that I admired, and I took all the things that they did, and I wanted to be all of them. Here's hoping. But I want to encourage growth and opportunity, and I want to accept others' imperfections while expecting them to accept mine as well, which can often be challenging, and we do have a higher expectation of us. That being said, I do want to go back to the lead, not manage. And that's the part that I really took from this whole thing, is the self-reflection element of it. It forced you to look at yourself, know who you are, how do you respond to people, and leadership to me is very personal. Management goes up, says, do this, do this, do this, go, I'll check back with you in a while. When you think about leading, that's carrying somebody with you, taking them by the hand. It's parenting, it's friendships, it's establishing relationships. And it was very eye-opening for me to force myself to look outside of myself, to be able to contact or connect with others on a little bit different level than I was comfortable with, to be honest. I often keep work a little distant just to keep that divide. It's just me, accept it, that's where I am. So anyway, but that's the main takeaway for me, was just, as it forced us to look at ourselves. I think that everybody became a better leader and has the aspirations to continue on with this. So, my takeaway would be, of course, I think everybody ought to be able to go through this program at some point. But again, just the gratitude for me to be able to take the course, for you allowing me to come talk to you tonight. And just grateful for that. So thanks.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Mike, did you want to get up? And any others, you're welcome to participate as well and to share. You're welcome to.
I wasn't expecting to say anything, but I feel much like J. Golden Kimball, where he got it. He says, only the Lord knows what I'm going to say now. I kind of feel the same way, but this was a kind of an interesting deal for me because it was a total different twist in the direction that I thought I was going to be going. So Brant calls me up and says, hey, we want to do this. And I'm going, hey, look, I just, a while back, did the University of Utah Certified Managers Program. I think I'm good. And that's one thing I like about Brent, is he had the wisdom to say, we got numerous of your guys that are going to be taking the class. And I really think it'll be good for you. And I'm going, oh man, dude, come on, I just tried to get out of this, it's not working. But it was wisdom, because the neat thing about this, and I didn't realize it till probably a little bit after it was all over with, but this was a great opportunity. You all know that eventually one day I'm going to ride off into the sunset. But this gave us a great opportunity for us as a group. So I have 5 guys underneath me that took the class along with myself. So what's neat and instrumental in this is being able to work together as a team. We say these things, we talk these things, and we do these things. So I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to do it. It was a pain. It took up a lot of time and a busy time with budget and everything else going on, but there was a lot learned. And I think the greatest thing for me is it's able that us as a group, us as Public Works, can work together and we can move forward as a group. And when I disappear and go, the structure will still be there. When Brant called me, I said, well, I got 2 guys I'd rather have go besides myself, but he was adamant that it'd be good for me to do it. And like I say, I am thankful, and I do hope that we can have more individuals come through the Public Works as we start to grow. We never know who we're going to lose. There's a couple that I'm worried about a little bit. Of course, if Mark was here, he says, you worry enough for both of us. But I think it is good training. I felt really good about the direction and the way that the training went. It was a little bit different than the way the University of Utah taught their class, but I like this hands-on. And one of the neatest things is I've got 6 other friends in other states, Hollister, California, to Washington, that we're still networking a little bit together. And so it gave me another networking group that I can deal with. So I'm thankful for that. It was a neat way to do it. And I just think that, yeah, I was talking with Brent, I need to do this. I still had a couple classes that I would have wanted to do. But I feel like we can function through this without doing these other classes by refining and honing our skills as we work together in public works. So I'd like to thank City Council. I know it was a big endeavor cost-wise to do this, but in my personal belief, it was beneficial for my department to see us, to be able to start working together, I think was a good thing. So that's it.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Any questions from council? Sorry, I don't mean to take your role there, Mayor, but any of us are happy to answer any questions regarding this program.
We gonna go through the names of everybody? Do you want me to walk down, or?
Yeah, I think, Bryce, is that what you envisioned, us being down there and handing them out? Okay, yeah, you and I can go down there. So the hope with this program is that we do send potentially 2 or 3 each year through the program until our entire staff has a chance to go through it. Again, cross departments to make sure we still kind of bridge that, break down the silos, so to say.
You gonna run it like a commencement line and get the next person in line behind?
Yeah, if you saw one of them stand up.
Hold the applause until the end, right?
Hold your applause till the end.
I'll go first.
And if you have any attire that is distracting.
No, the stand's mine. Right. We'll use that again.
All right, these are the graduates. Dave Walker, who we heard from.
Lots of PDA.
Thanks, Dave. PDA. Michael Higgins. Michael's not here, is he? Cameron Woodbury, he's not here. Alan Ackerson. Alan, thanks for being the representative from the police. Steve Hunt. Boy, we got all the speakers in order. Thanks, Steve. Bryce King. Thanks, Bryce. Congratulations. Lisa Romney. I wonder why she came down off the stand. Thanks, Lisa. Mike Carlson. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for the report. Bruce Cox. Saw him here, but it took off. Nate Pazer. Thanks, Nate. And Brad Hanson. That's why I got to give him out, because you participated. Thank you, everybody.
Nice try, Alan. Nice try, Alan.
Hey, Alan, this isn't chorus line.
Just to scoot in just a little bit, if we're gonna get the mayor in there, that'd be great. All right, ready? We'll take a couple. Awesome. Thanks.
I know Lisa wants to say something.
I want to know when the last time Mike's done homework. Dave said 20 years or so, but Mike, has it been 30, 40? When's the last time you did homework, Mike?
Just ask him what color the chalk was.
Chalk, they were still using the
It's not even whiteboards anymore. All right, well, thank you.
So I have, thank you, council.
That's very, very good. It was good to hear the reports. Thank you so much. Let's go to the second presentation tonight. We have Tiff Miller here from South Davis Rec, and he's here to give us an update. So Tiff, take it away.
All right, thank you all for having me. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the district and some of the things that we've been going through over the last little bit. I know I was here, I think in late 2021, and we talked about some things then, but we're now in our 16th year of operation with the district. So just a couple things with some of the changes and growth that we've seen over the years. We've seen new programs and offerings, as well as finding new avenues to reach the citizens in the South Davis Recreation District. So over the past few years, obviously everyone's had to deal with things like COVID. For us specifically, we've had a lot of large capital projects that have taken place over the last couple of years. Dealt with inflation last year and a couple other things, obviously, that can definitely change the trajectory of the district. But I feel confident that we're moving in the right direction. And I wanted to touch on some areas of the things that we've done over the last couple of years, some of the changes we've made, but also just some of the things that we have planned to come up over the next little bit. So the first thing I want to talk about is our membership. So the district really relies on memberships. We've seen over the last couple of years since COVID, that's been the hardest, where we've been hit hardest since 2020 is in our memberships. But we're making some changes over the last year to our memberships to hopefully see that grow. And we've also seen just people coming back to the rec center. So that's been a great thing for us to see. So I wanted to present some information and data to you guys regarding memberships and some of these other things that we have on here. But through April of this year, our past sales compared to 2019 are still a little bit down, but we were actually up $50,000 compared to 2022. So I feel like that's a great change from last year. So that's the first 4 months, we're already $50,000 better than we were last year. So that's a great improvement. And some of the things we've done this year, as I mentioned before, we've seen more people coming back to the rec center, but we also changed the way we did our membership. So if you're not familiar, in the past, we had a membership for up to 7 people in a family. We changed that this year to a family of 3 as a base charge for our memberships, and we actually lowered the rate from $4.95 as our base rate to $4.60. So, and then for any child or that's added to that pass, it's an additional $25. So actually for families of 3 or 4, they're actually not paying as much as they did in the past. We try to tier it based on how many people are in that family. So right now, our base family starts at $4.60 and was $4.95 in the past. We also just recently added a summer pass option, I think last week, it was what we added that. We've had some people take advantage of that. We went on sale on Monday, so if you have anybody that wants a summer pass, that pass is now available to purchase, and that will go Memorial Day through Labor Day. But our memberships, like I said, are trending in the right direction. We're hoping to get back to 2019 and above at that point. 2019 was sort of that bellwether year when we did really, really well with memberships. And then COVID happened, and we're trying to get back to that normal spot that we like to be. So the next thing I want to touch on is on daily passes. So in 2022, we actually increased our daily pass admission rate, and it's been a great source of revenue for us as well. Not only did we increase that, we also saw more people coming back to the rec center, like I mentioned. So those people that haven't been ready to purchase a pass, they've been coming back and using our facility and purchasing daily passes. So we've actually seen over $20,000 through April of this year and daily pass admissions increase. So good numbers there. Want to see those continue going forward. Just something that I'm excited about seeing over the last couple of years. We've seen it's just a lot of change because of the pandemic and some of the numbers that really affected us for our memberships and our daily passes. So we're seeing some good trends moving forward. Projects. So I mentioned earlier that we've had some multi-million-dollar projects over the last couple of years. We worked on replacing our leisure pool roof in many sections there to replace damage that had taken place over the last 12 to 15 years. That project is done. We also been working on replacing our air handlers for our leisure pool and lap pool. And that part of the project is basically wrapped up. There's a few final tweaks we're working on, but that is in its final stages as well. We also replaced our leisure pool toy. That's in the leisure pool. The structure that had been there since we opened, and we replaced that in late 2021, which has been a great addition to our facility. It's been provided more features for kids to play in. It's a really cool thing if you haven't seen it. So a lot of people have enjoyed that. One thing that changed this year for us as well is if you'd been to the facility of the past or even the old bubble, we had a concessions that was in-house. We replaced that this year. We eliminated that this year and recently replaced that with an outside vendor. Snellgrove Trading Company. So if you're familiar with the name Snellgrove, it's a family that does ice cream, so they are part of that family. So they have introduced ice cream into the new concessions area. They've been doing really well from what they've told me. We're excited to have them on board. And for us personally, this change, eliminating the concessions internally helped us save over $100,000 in costs this year. So we're excited about that change. They've been excited about the opportunity to go in and do that. And they're looking forward to opening up the outdoor snack bar for our outdoor pool as well. So we're really excited about having them on board. The last part of this slide I want to talk about is our programs. So I'm going to touch on some of the Centerville comparisons in just a few seconds. But our programs have been doing really well since COVID. Our soccer, flag football, junior jazz, and all others are seeing increased revenues and participation. And we probably could even be larger if we had more facilities, more opportunities, and to grow. But we are limited by our facilities and by the space that we have. In 2022, we saw a little bit of a slip in our swim lessons, mostly because we were having trouble hiring people that would teach swim lessons. So we actually had to increase our wages for this year, and we've seen some good numbers come back in for participation in that, so we're seeing that number tick back up in 2023. But swim lessons are obviously an important part of our community, I believe, and we hope to be able to provide those lessons and provide those opportunities for many in the district. So we hope to see those continue to grow and allow us to help people learn how to swim, because I think it's an important skill to have. So I wanted to discuss with you a little bit, and while we're talking about programs, just about the Centerville comparisons. So if you look at the comparisons, it's hard probably to read, I apologize, but Centerville accounts for about 16%, 16.4% of the residents in the district. So that's about 17,000-ish, 17,000, 18,000 residents in there. And actually, for members of the facility, Centerville represents almost 20% of our membership. So it's higher than the percentage of residents in our district, and we definitely appreciate all the residents that we have that come and utilize the facility. Also wanted to talk about the program. So I've sort of listed out a number of the high-level programs that we do, just a little cross-section of the facility and the different things that we have, the different areas that we have. So we've got recreation, we've got swimming, we've got ice, we've got special events. So if you look through this, you can see that soccer is a very high participation sport through the district, so is junior jazz, flag football. Swimming lessons obviously are a big part of that. Some of the areas that we see that are a little bit lower are our races and triathlons, or some of our special events, community events like our Dogapalooza, where the dogs can come swim in the pool in September, and then our egg dive, which is held around Easter every year. But I do feel encouraged by the number of people that are using our facilities from Centerville, and just in general from the district. But one area that's a little bit lower is baseball. Obviously, Centerville does their own baseball program, so we expected those numbers to be a little bit lower. But overall, I feel like the residents are using the facility, they're using our programs, and we want to find ways to encourage them to use them more and more in the future. So going on to the next slide, about the district future. So one of the things that we've been working on, and Spencer can probably attest to this, we've been talking about it quite a bit over the last few months and this year in general, but the district board has been in discussions regarding a potential increase to the operational subsidy, which has not been increased since we opened in 2007. Spencer, along with other board members and staff, have been really looking at the numbers, the way to offset increasing costs, increasing wages, and recovery from COVID and our large expenses for capital projects. And any changes that we discuss or look at, we'll obviously want to come back to you guys and talk about those. And we're looking at, hopefully by August, having the opportunity to maybe come back and talk to you about those changes that possibly could happen, and then in the fall, looking at discussing those with the community as well. So we are actively looking at that subsidy number and trying to figure out what the best plan of action will be for that. We've talked with you guys in the past about bonding. Right now, bonding is not something we've really talked about too much this year as we looked at the subsidy. So that's something that we'll continue to look at and revisit in the future. Last year we looked at possibility of going out for a $46 million bond. We did not do that, but that bond did include upgrades to the current facility as well as expanding district facilities. Part of that expansion was pool expansion. We've been looking at opportunities and ways to expand our pools in the future. Right now, and Spencer's been a big part of that discussion as well, is we're looking at possibly expanding the current lap pool and from a 40-meter pool to a 60-meter pool. If you look back when the pool was first built, or the facility was first built, we should have had it as a 50-meter pool. But this would give us the opportunity to expand it and have multiple areas of the pool that can be blocked off and used for different programs, different things within the facility. So we're also, with this pool expansion, looking at bringing back more of an outdoor pool element, something that's been missing since the bubble. So we're looking at adding some outdoor pool lanes that would have diving boards and a bubble in the cool months. So a smaller bubble, not like the big bubble in the past, but a little bit smaller, but opportunity to have an outdoor pool environment. Because that was one of the things we got from our master plan, was that opportunity to have more pool opportunities, but especially an outdoor pool functioning lap, or something in the outdoor pool area that would allow the people to come in and get in some sun as well as be in the pool. We do have that outdoor pool structure that we currently have. It's just a little bit smaller and it's more for younger people. We're also still looking at a second facility, which at this point would still be looking at putting that in Hatch Park in North Salt Lake as part of their upgrades to that park. So that would obviously become as part of the bond. Like I said, we haven't really looked at that for this year, but that would be something that would be there as they're doing their projects to increase their recreational opportunities there, but also enhance that park in general. Also still looking at field space, where that might be in possibility in the future, and are evaluating our options. So also meeting with the cities. So something that I've been trying to do this year is meeting with the city managers of all the districts, or all the cities in the district. I met with Brant back in March, and we're looking to set something up in the next couple months as well. But just to get the city managers, and also come back to you guys and talk more about what's going on in the district, just so you're aware of what we're trying to do, just the successes and the challenges that we have, and just make sure that we're all aware of what's been going on with the district. But we are wanting to continue to grow that relationship. We're very grateful for the relationship that we have currently, especially when we came together as a district and a city to provide the new fields at Centerville Community Park. Those fields have been a huge benefit for the community, but also us as a district. We use them for our soccer program. It's been great for us to have those fields as an opportunity to use those in the spring and in the fall. Also, we're very thankful to Bryce to helping us with baseball. I know that baseball registrations were a little bit down for both of us this year, so we had the opportunity to sort of join together and play together and have a little bit more teams instead of just a handful, so make it a little bit more fun for the kids. So we're also looking at the future. So we've seen our programs and our offerings. So we're looking at the future, and we're trying to find ways to get with the cities, not just about the subsidy increase, but just so we're, like I said, we're more communication going forward. And one of those things that I think we did last year that Bryce helped coordinate, that we've done in the past and just started back up, and we're hoping that we can do it again this year, was the Free Centerville Resident Day. I don't know that a ton of people utilized it last year, but we hope that we can get that for something for the residents in Centerville to continue to go on each year. But I think for the future, I think we see a lot of opportunities, and I'm hoping that as we go forward that we'll find the best plan of action to help the district be as successful as possible, which will hopefully in turn be successful for all the cities in South Davis County as well. So for this next slide, just some miscellaneous updates of things that are upcoming. We are hosting a bunch of school groups as it's the end of the year, so we're getting ready for our outdoor pools. We're getting ready for the school groups to come and use our pools over the next few days and next few weeks as summer starts creeping up. We're getting into our summer hours and the outdoor pool opening up Memorial Day weekends. So summer hours will start that Monday on Memorial Day. For those who like to run or should, and unlike me who don't run but probably should, handcart races are on the 22nd of July. And those will be coming up. Registration's already open for that, so if you feel free to register for that if you're interested. We also just held our first outdoor triathlon for the year. Did you participate in that, Spencer? Oh, you were doing your Ironman.
I was
That's right.
recovering from Ironman.
Yeah. So we have another one coming up in Labor Day. So those are two of our biggest events for the year in the races. Also looking to continue to grow our adaptive programs. So we've started adaptive programs over the last couple of years. It's slowly growing bigger and bigger, but we definitely wanted to grow as much as possible and allow the adaptive community to come in and utilize the facility and utilize our programs, and just to get to be able to do things as a group and have a lot of fun at the facility. So just in conclusion, I think overall our program participation and facility admissions are continuing to increase in a positive way, and we're trying to get back to pre-COVID numbers for our memberships, but we're seeing a lot of progress in our programs and our daily admissions. We're working to get back our memberships, like I said, but I think with some of the changes that we've made, we're seeing some positive results there. So as I mentioned with the subsidy, we're working on different avenues to increase revenues and to decrease costs while looking to the future and to continue to provide fun, affordable, family-friendly experiences for the residents of South Davis Recreation District. So I'm excited to be here, thankful for the opportunity to come to speak to you guys, to fill you in with some of the things that we're doing. We've got a lot going on. We're busy all the time, and we're going to get busier as the summer progresses, and we're looking forward to that time when we're open for more for the pool time and people can come in and utilize the facility, get into the gym, even get onto the ice during the winter. I would think ice would be a great place in the winter. It's not as busy as I would think it would be, but finding ways to encourage people to come utilize that ice time as well. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate it, and yeah, that's it.
Can we go back to the breakout slide for the memberships for just a second?
For Centerville?
Yeah. Okay, so just making sure that I'm trying to make sure that I'm translating memberships to...
These are members.
Members?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, so the residents of Centerville.
Okay, just want to make sure that was the right number.
Yep.
Because that helps in the subsidy type calculations, is what percentage of the population. Yeah. Okay, that works.
You mentioned that you had success in hiring a swim instructor by raising the rates.
That was part of the reason, yeah. I think people were just ready to come back and do it some more, but we've also tried to incentivize our training programs as well. But the wage was something we had to compete with Salt Lake County because they increased all their wages up to $15 per hour last year. So we were seeing some people going down there, and then obviously losing people to things like Target and fast food. They're all raising their rates up as well. So
did that cause an increase to those that are taking swim lessons?
no, we increased our private lessons this year, and I think we increased our swim lessons by $1 overall. So nothing too crazy there. We had decreased our rates the year before for swim lessons. So, but we did see, like I said, we saw some good numbers coming in for the lifeguards, and because of the facility that we have, we depend a lot on lifeguards to be able to open up the areas that we need to have that bring the people in, and the pools are obviously one of our highest revenue producing areas of the facility.
On these programs, I mean, obviously races, triathlons are open to any age, but do you have any adult programs in these other areas? We
do. We do have adult softball, basketball, volleyball. We also have some adult swim lessons, some learn to skate programs as well. So we definitely have a lot more youth programs, but we do have adult programs as well. And we've seen more growth in the youth programs, whereas the adults have been more stagnant or even a little bit less prior to COVID. But we do have those available, and we have our adult softball program running right now, and we'll have adult basketball and more adult softball in the fall, as well as adult volleyball.
That's good enough.
And, adult basketball too. Sorry, I don't know why I didn't think about that, but yes, adult basketball.
Facility meeting for the pool, the racquetball courts, go with my son sometime to lift weights, but I was wondering if you still had those adult basketball programs, that sort of thing.
We do, yeah. I don't know why I didn't mention that one, but yeah, adult basketball is still one of our biggest adult programs that we have, and we utilize school district facilities a lot for those programs.
Great. Any other questions for Tiff? Thank you for the presentation.
Guys, appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Jeff.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to the business items. We got Chief Stone sitting here ready to tell us about fireworks restriction areas. We appreciate the chief coming. I saw him last night, so it's good to see him tonight.
So you're tired of me already? I've been there, done that? Thanks, Mayor, members of the council. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about my favorite thing, fireworks. I absolutely love it, and to discuss it and to deal with it every year is something that I can wait till I can retire so I can enjoy the 4th of July and the 24th again. So with that being said, I have, every year we have to, with the cities that have a restricted area, we have to send that to the county so the county can send it to the state fire marshal's office and they can post it on their websites. I've sent a letter to Brandt in regards to where I believe we should keep the restriction at, and the restriction every year for Centerville is a good one. I think I've talked with Chief Childs about being able to enforce that, and that's one of the requirements, is that it's an enforceable line that's kind of known by the residents, and that line, and we've stayed with for a considerable amount of time now, and I believe it coincides with this year with Bountiful. Again, Bountiful's going to come across all the way from Orchard Drive, so we turn up and go up to 7th East there as the start from the south end. This year I foresee that we're not in a drought, or we didn't have a drought winter, let's just say that. And so, but with the amount of water that we're going to see this year, that we're seeing already, I think we're going to have the potential of seeing a lot of light fuels or flash fuels, the grasses. And that particularly is what we see where the fireworks start. And so my concern this year is that we will see those flash fuels grow to a significant height. That cheat grass will be pretty high, and we could see a possible, wildland urban interface fire from that. So my recommendation to the council with the city was just to keep our what we've done in the past, and I think that that's a justifiable, good fireworks restriction line. So with that being said, I don't really have any other comments unless you'd like to have any questions that I can answer for you.
I think it's awesome, and I really thank you for all your service, because you guys are really great in our community.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Chief, have you had internal discussions of bringing it from 7th East to 4th East at all, down on the south end of town?
Personally, I would love to. I'll be honest with you. I think it would be great to just stick with 4th East all the way across and then go down where it's at right now into Maine and then across to Farmington. I think the problem that we see is that really we have to base that on historical data. And we don't have, with Bountiful has gone up and back and forth from Davis to Orchard. But we don't have significant canyons that come down into that area right there where people could say, well, how are you restricting that when there's really no urban interface, wildland urban interface area that we have that, and we don't have any fires down there. So yes, my personal opinion would be yes, let's stick it.
Emotionally,
Yes. Yep.
Data-wise,
I would
you have to
sleep.
stay at 7th East?
I would sleep a lot better with that knowing. But that being said, I think it's hard to put that into place. I mean, you could, but I think where we have it, obviously we have residents on, that are above that or by that 7th East that feel like they should be lower. But that's just, unfortunately, the way that the law is written is that we have to have some historical data or areas that we can feel that those are.
You're saying by statute, you almost have 400?
It helps us enforce it, I think, better.
Okay.
So, and then maybe Lisa can, I know she's read it, I've read it, I don't know how many times, it's burned in my brain.
I would be supportive of it. I don't know the rest of the council, but I also want to be respectful of their statute, of obviously in place we can.
And the statutory language says that the fire agency has to determine existing or historical hazardous environmental conditions exist which necessitate the controlled use of these ignition sources. And so that's why we go, you know, and analyze it every year, because every year environmental conditions are slightly different. But
And I believe that,
I'm just glad we have it on public record now.
yeah. And in all honesty, we were talking earlier that people love fireworks. And when you restrict their fireworks, we get to the point where I am an American and that is part of my right. And so it causes issues. So I think that we're safe. I believe it would be better. I mean, we could go down to Main Street and I'd be like, but, yeah.
So it's the historical, because Alan's in the back, and I don't know if he was prepped for this at all. Can you tell us about historical enforcement, what you've actually seen, and what because this is part of that situation. It's like, we have the demarcation line. What are you seeing above that in terms of enforcement that you've had to do?
Yeah, every year we have to go out and do enforcement, but the residents typically know when they're in violation.
Is that when you pull up, they know they're in violation, or?
When they run, you get the sense that they knew already.
And what is the penalty?
But there's a ticket for it, and I'm not quite sure the court fine associated with it.
So it becomes Spencer, I'm trying to get to, it becomes a risk reward. Some people are willing to risk it either way. And so if you move the line, I don't know that you're gonna get much more than Alan and everybody's
Stone
gonna be out
said they
more.
love their fireworks and they love their rights, so.
They do. And it is, the aerial fireworks, right, are what we classify as a cake firework, right? And that firework, it goes off in a pattern. The mortar style that you see, that we would see in a fireworks show, are illegal for your average. But if you just take I watch every year, and it's interesting to watch. We still see mortar style aerial fireworks, and I'm sure, you know.
Sell them at Centerville Junior High, I think.
Well, no, they don't. They can't. But
Can't
they're.
sell.
No, they can, but I'm sure
It's
I've
still
seen
aerials,
neighbors.
but-
No, they
You'll see,
can't
they'll
sell
see aerials, but
the
they're not the
mortar
mortar
ones.
style, which it's a
Like a
ball that
launcher?
they put down, and but they'll sell those up in Wyoming, and so people still go to Wyoming to get them, to bring them down. So, and we know how, you know, I mean, Councilmember Meekum and I were talking about how people love their Wyoming fireworks, and you know, so they're just bigger and better. So I think, you know, Lieutenant Atchison can adjust to that line is there, and they're gonna see it, and they know it. And once we move it down, we'll have all those people go, I didn't know, right? I didn't know.
So we've talked about this several years before, and one of the things that was brought up was they wanted us to, because we redid it after I was on right when I think I got on. But if you keep it the same every year, they get less problems because everybody knows where it is. And so it's kind of a given, you know, they still have some that are obviously
Right.
gonna push the envelope. But it's pretty well known now. It's been enough years that it's pretty well set where they can.
We've always talked about how many places can you possibly post it with, like, can you force the retailers to have it right there by the register that says
right.
you have to display the map in the city and things of that nature.
They'd have to display it at their, when they sell it. It's located at their tents. But
It is, but often I find it taped to the outside of one of the tent poles facing like away from the booth. I would really love it to be right next to the cash register, that when you're checking out, there's no way you can miss it. And some retailers are better about it than others, but I just wish that was something, if you were gonna ask for something to be put in statute, is that the notice is painfully obvious to anyone purchasing fireworks. But then they'll say, oh, I purchased it in Bountiful, I didn't know Centerville's line, you know, so you can't win on that one, I guess.
The one thing I do like about our line is it's defensible. It's not an arbitrary line like we kind of talk about. If we went all the way across Northeast, it's easy for enforcement, but at the same time, it makes it more difficult on us because we're trying to enforce maybe a line that doesn't make sense, right? So people have frustrations with it, and we get frustrated trying to enforce it. But I think we have a very fair line where it's at, and so we don't get a lot of grief from people because they recognize, they may still do it at times, but they still recognize the hazard.
And I do believe that with the recent fires we've had every year, depending on whether it's Centerville, Bountiful, North Salt Lake, and those urban interface areas, that people are becoming more aware that it can happen in a split second. And so, I think they're more cognitive of it, so.
The public almost look at the right to bear fireworks like the right to bear arms.
It is true, and I will get probably a handful of emails for those who say, ban fireworks, you need to ban fireworks throughout the whole cities, compared to those that say, this is ridiculous, I should be able to light fireworks. So it's an even comparison, but I will get those emails, so. And so I appreciate your support. I mean, every year we gear up for this. Our crews have already been out training for wildland and urban interface fires already, and so we gear up for it. It's my favorite time of the year.
Thanks for letting me pull you up ad hoc like that, because
Yeah,
the
thanks.
enforcement is always an issue.
Yes.
I was with the chief last year and in July with a couple of those fires we had, and I said to him, if Brigham had just decided to bring the Saints across in February, it'd be a lot better deal, wouldn't it?
Have at it.
24th,
Yeah,
and then we said, and if and then he said, if the founding fathers had decided to establish the country in November, it'd be a lot better.
Great, yeah. Yeah, you can light fireworks in, New Year's Eve. I have no problem with that. Those are great. The January
well on New
fireworks.
Year's
I do, I sleep great, yeah. My dog has a little harder time, but yeah, come January 1st, I hear them go off. Where I live in North Salt Lake, and I am in the firework restriction area. One, it's been a cost savings to me. I loved it. I saved money during the July area because my boys were like, Dad, we can't light fireworks. I'm like, oh, that's too bad. It's really sad. So, and then two, it's nice. I don't have to listen to, the fireworks. My dog doesn't freak out, and it's been pleasant. So, anyway.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Alan, as well.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We don't need to do any motion on this or anything, do we?
No, it's just information and confirming our ordinances are satisfactory.
Okay, thanks. Thanks so much.
Great. Have a good
Thanks, Chief.
Appreciate you coming. All right, let's talk about some fee schedule amendments. Nate, are you coming up to talk about this or introduce it to us?
One of them's called the garbage.
I hope I don't get in trouble, but I'd be remorse if I didn't put some legs on the comments of my colleagues about the Professional Development Academy. No, it was awesome going through.
Was there a side bet on what length of meeting and if Nate would actually say PDA?
No,
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
No, we were just trying to test the strength of our HR policy.
but honestly, it was great going through it with colleagues. I learned so much, and we have a great staff here at Centerville. I learned a lot from them. Okay, so on to the fee amendment. Before you tonight, we have a consideration of the amendment of our fee schedule regarding our solid waste, green waste, and recycling fees. So just a little background on this. We did discuss this more in depth at our April budget retreat, but just to kind of recap that, back in February, the council voted to amend the agreement with Ace Disposal for its solid waste, green waste, and recycling collection. This extended the contracted service by Ace through the next 2 years, through June of 2025. This year, that puts a cost increase of 7.1% for this upcoming fiscal year, as well as an additional increase up to 5% for the following year based on CPI. And with that added cost, plus the cost of containers that have dramatically increased, it's put our sanitation fund to its limits. If you recall back when we were going through the budget for fiscal year '23, we had elected to use about $53,000 worth of fund balance in order to fund the sanitation fund, hoping to put off that fee increase till this year, even though we knew it ultimately needed to happen. Due to those cost increases, it's proposed that we increase the collection fee. The increase you can see here highlighted in yellow, but for your first solid waste can, it would bring the cost from $13.69 up to $15.55. For the first recycling can, from $4.35 to $5.11, and the green waste can would go from $10.61 to $12.07. Are there any questions I can answer?
Doesn't sound like it.
Well, I'll ask you a question just because, you need at least one. These rates will allow us to hold steady for how long, or do we anticipate an annual increase, or what are you thinking?
I am projecting that this will get us through fiscal year '25. At that point, our contract is up with ACE. We do have the option to extend that one more time with ACE per our current contract. I think it'll get us through fiscal year '25. After that, it ultimately depends on the agreement that ACE, or the proposal that ACE will bring before us, or if the city decides to go out for RFP, just depending on what those costs do that I can't predict. But I do expect it to go through '25, and then we'll see what the proposal comes back after that.
Great, thanks.
I think we were all kind of prepared for it, with the budget meetings and whatnot, but thanks for the presentation and all the detail. All right, so if there's no question on this one does have a resolution with it.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2023-10, amending the Centerville fee schedule regarding solid waste, green waste, and recycling services fees.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All right, let's do a roll call vote. Councilman Meekum.
Aye.
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 Councilman Ince still on?
Who's on?
Councilman Ince, are you voting on this one? You there?
Aye. Sorry, I'm slow.
Thank you. All right, that passed unanimously. Thank you, Nate, for your work on that. Is there more?
I have the next item.
Okay.
So, here.
No reason to sit there.
I just thought he was finally getting back one on me. When I surprise him all the time, he's surprising me now.
Nope,
right,
just lazy, didn't want to sit down.
Go ahead, the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021.
All right,
Allocating
so,
funds.
as Mayor mentioned, tonight we're asking the council to obligate the funds that we received through the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. So a little background on this. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, back in May of 2021, President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan Act, otherwise known as ARPA. If you recall, we received CARES funding back in 2020, and then this was the second federal payment, was the ARPA. So through this, the act allocated $1.9 trillion worth total. Of that, $350 billion went to states and local governments, and of that, Centerville City received $2,081,432, and that was in 2 different payments. Just to summarize ARPA, the rules allow us to use these funds in summary in 4 different ways. The first is as a COVID-19 response to the public health emergency or its negative economic impacts. The second is to provide premium pay to essential workers. The third is to supplement revenue loss. And the fourth is to make investments in your water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. We are recommending that we use these funds to supplement revenue loss. Now, under this provision, we can do this 2 ways. One would be to fill out a spreadsheet, and it counts for inflation, which we would qualify under. The easiest way is in the final rule, they said
you can allocate up to $10 million, no questions asked. So that's just the easiest way to do it. What that would do is essentially give us unbudgeted revenue, and assuming we don't have any budget amendments for the expense side, it would just give us that net income and go into our fund balance. Now, again, as some extra information, under the original ARPA rules, we needed to have all of these funds obligated by December 31st, 2024, and they had to be spent by December 31st, 2026. However, we just received an email from the Government Finance Officers Association, or the GFOA, and I just wanted to read what they said in this email. It says, several federal legislative initiatives were recently introduced in Congress proposing to rescind unobligated coronavirus funds. The most notable this week is a proposal introduced by House leadership to address the national debt ceiling that includes such a rescission. So, again, in summary, they're looking at the issue with the national debt ceiling, and one of the ideas was to take all the unobligated funds from ARPA and pull it back. So I asked the Ferguson Group in one of our meetings about this. They're of the opinion that the passing of this proposed legislation is slim, but they did note that it is possible, and they also noted that the term unobligated is not fully defined. They don't think that that would include funds already distributed to state and local governments. They think that's more of the remaining funds that the federal government still has in their hands that haven't been allocated yet. However, there is a chance that if this goes through that they could take unobligated funds from the city. So again, most people are of the opinion that the chance of that is slim, but just to play it safe, we decided to bring this before you tonight so that we can obligate these funds before this legislation passes. So again, we are recommending that the city obligate the use of ARPA funds as allowed under the revenue loss provision using the allowed standard deduction.
What we're proposing is this go just to our capital improvement fund for now. We anticipate the funds will be used for the Oak Ridge tank matches, but we don't know what that number is going to be just yet until we get through the process. So right now we'll just keep it unrestricted in the general fund, but we'll distribute it to the water fund or drainage fund or wherever we obligate those funds. Or we don't spend them, of course, and they go towards future projects. So that's our intent right now. It's just unrestricted, hold on to it, and then we can distribute it later. Did I miss anything on that?
So you're telling me that by obligating it is assigning it to one of the funds, right?
Yeah, so obligating it is to choose one of those four methods.
But you don't interpret from what you've seen from the government office that we have to do more than that as far as specific line items on the budget that you're taking it to or anything?
No, so that's the benefit of doing the revenue loss with the standard deduction. If we were, so for example, if we wanted to use it in improving the water infrastructure, it's allowed, but then we are required to track each expense and submit reports.
It's monitored
annually.
at that point.
Right.
Yeah, but this feels like just a sweep account.
It does.
Up to $10 million. So essentially,
Yeah.
based off of that amount, it's smaller community get a benefit of less paperwork as opposed to larger communities have a little more burden.
Correct.
My personal viewpoint is anything that's past the original 2024 sunset date in December, if it's not spent, I think you're at risk of having the federal government do a clawback and bring it back in. So I'm not sure that just parking it in like I say, for lack of a better term, a sweep account is gonna get you what you need. So if we do think that we can obligate it for the actual capital project, that's something, but I would be concerned that you're at risk at that point.
But I think what they're saying is we are obligating it, we're saying we're using it for our losses. So we are stating this is what we're using
And I
it
think
for.
what George is saying is, yes, you're right, but it's
But you
better
still
to
have
allocate
it.
it to an
Yeah.
actual physical item.
It's harder to take it back when it's not actually there. So if it's not, I don't, to me, that just, I'm a little worried about that.
My
Well, let me-
concern with obligating it through the federal government to our water tank is they may come back and say, oh, no, 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 you don't get to use that. You don't get to use that 25% you've got to come up with. It can't be 100% federally funded. So I don't know that that's going to work.
Well,
or we've
water
already
tank may be
got a
one.
massive grant.
There's injection wells I'd love to see us do. There's a number of different water projects that I think we could do. I'm just saying that if you get a significant swing in the spending pendulum at the federal level, you know, by legislative fiat, they could pull that money back if you still have it.
I know the concerns there.
And how are you going to prove that that's happening?
Politically, I don't think it flies on a federal level. So I don't think
Don't have
the
a
risk
law,
is great, to be honest. I don't know how.
Can you
We do have a
just
loss.
explain the standard deduction a little bit better? When you talk about this loss of revenue and you're preparing a spreadsheet, can you just, like, I maybe missed
Yeah.
something when you talked about that before, but.
Yeah, so originally when the, I forget what the correct term was, but the initial ruling came out. So Congress passes the law, the Treasury interprets it and sends out this ruling. And under that first one, the initial one, they said, with the revenue loss, you enter your financial information for pre-COVID, so it'd be fiscal year 19. You put it in the spreadsheet, and then the spreadsheet calculates, I think it was about 4% inflation per year for your revenues. And then whatever gap you had in your actuals versus your revenues 2-3 years later, that was the amount you could claim as revenue loss. Then when the final rule came out, so they send it out, they get feedback from all the governments, and then they issue a final rule. And so when they issued the final rule, they said, for the ease of everything, just to make it easy, we're gonna throw in this, the standard deduction. So you can claim up to $10 million. You can either go through the spreadsheet, or B, you can claim the standard deduction up to $10 million and claim up to $10 million as revenue loss. No spreadsheet needed.
Okay.
So if I could address a couple of your concerns. The first, Councilman McEwen, we can use these funds for governmental services dating back to March 3rd of 2021. So we have already spent over $2 million in governmental services. So if that question ever arose, it's very easy to show just this current fiscal year, we've already spent $2 million in governmental services, and it's allocated to that. About the, wanting to use it for other projects potentially, if we do the standard deduction, again, it just counts as revenue that we weren't expecting, and so we won't. So this fiscal year, we'll have an extra $2 million in revenue. Then if we don't spend that, then it just rolls into our net income or our fund balance, and we can allocate it out to other funds as needed, not tying it back to ARPA, just as city-owned funds of our fund balance that we can transfer as needed. Does that answer?
It does. I'm just wishing the standard deduction for individual taxpayers were that good.
And the other part, sorry, I just remembered the part, we can use this to match as the city funds for federal matching, except.
Oh, okay, so that actually does
Not
qualify in
augmenting,
the
it's
ARPA.
not augmenting anything, even if it was just ARPA funds, you're not augmenting, because it's not one department to another department, right? So.
There are very
That was the
few
purpose
things
of
that
it.
we couldn't use it as a match, such as like a pension. I forget what the other ones are, they're in the rule, but they didn't apply to what we do at the city.
But a federally partially funded capital improvement project isn't one of those.
No, yeah, it's allowed.
Okay.
So that's why I'm suggesting the standard deduction. It's just easy. It becomes city money. We've technically already spent it at that point once we obligate it. And then again, it just counts as revenue and will increase our fund balance, to which we can then decide what we do with our fund balance at a later date.
Talking my language, tax planning, standard versus itemized.
I lean towards doing the standard deduction just because I've done federal funding tracking of expenses, and it will be very painful to our staff to do that if we,
I agree with that, 100%.
so.
I'm great with it.
Do you want some sort of motion on this? Is that what you'd like to see?
Yes.
Okay. Have more questions? I mean, I'm not trying to speed it. Okay. Somebody
Yeah, I think
want to take a shot at this?
Well, the recommendation is just, as stated in the staff report. I'll make a recommendation that we obligate the use of ARPA funds as allowed under the revenue loss provision using the standard deduction.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Let's vote. Roll call. Councilman Summerhays, going over to the right.
Aye.
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 All righty.
I'll sit down.
You don't have a third one in a row, do you? You want to talk about polling places? Come on. All right, we'll go to polling locations. This is Jennifer. She's been looking forward to this, I'm sure.
Yeah, so at our last meeting, you approved the resolution to approve the polling places and voting centers for the upcoming election. However, we did not include the Fruit Heights voting center / polling, I can't remember what the difference is between the two things. But we didn't include the Fruit Heights location on that list because they're not holding a primary election. But we realized that we can just pass one resolution and approve all of the locations for both elections. But since we already passed the one, we just created a revised resolution to include the Fruit Heights location in that. But just note that they won't be holding a primary election. They do things a little bit differently, but they will be holding a general election. So it's basically the same resolution that we passed the last meeting, just adding one more location. Anything else?
Easy enough.
on that, Lisa?
Questions for her?
I'll make a motion that we're amending resolution 2023-13.
We're not amending it. It's a new resolution.
Oh, it is a
It's
new
just a
resolution.
revised
Okay.
resolution, so.
I'll recommend that we approve resolution number 2023-13, which adds Fruit Heights to the municipal elections voting centers.
I'll second that.
Motion a second, for discussion. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, that's unanimous. All right, let's go to the minutes. We have minutes review and approval of May 2nd work session, May 2nd city council, and May 2nd closed session. Do we have any changes on those minutes?
Motion to accept the minutes as recorded.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 I said it for you, Bill, sorry, I'm not supposed to.
Whoops, Bill, sorry about that.
I was going to say Councilman Ince says aye, and I said aye. So I did not vote. Councilman Ince said aye. It's unanimous. Okay, let's go to appointments. I sent you volunteer forms on these two people, Brandon Frederico to the Trails Committee and Allison Childs to the Whitaker Museum. Talked to them both. They're both excited about getting to work in these various committees or boards. So look for a motion to approve those, or
Motion to provide advice and consent for the approval of the appointees listed.
Second.
motion second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Financial report. So Nate provided with us, with our packet, the April financial report. He had some highlighted areas on it. This is, we only have him present quarterly, but he's here for any questions on anything that any of you may have on the April financial statements. If not, they're there for the public to see and us to have looked at, so thank you. All right, let's go to council report. Councilmember Summerhays, it's you.
So obviously had Tiff here tonight. The levy discussion is spirited. I don't think anybody disagrees you need to do a levy increase when you've never done one in nearly 15 years. The question becomes how much? Some members on one end of the spectrum are, hey, we just need to right the ship, and so we're going to put a number that's, I believe, too high, and I'm trying to base a levy increase that makes what I think practical sense in terms of basis on inflation and lost out increases over time. So there is a gap that needs to be figured out. And frankly, I think it has to be a balanced approach too. So balanced meaning we got to look at if you've let operating expenses get away from you, how do you rein in expenses as opposed to just always having it be a tax or a levy increase is the one. So there's quite a bit to make up, and so it's ongoing. But we'll have to meet all the deadlines, so possibly in our June meeting that will be voted on.
That's a great teaser, but what range are you talking about?
So for a $534,000 home, I think is the median price home in the rec district now. It's $15, because we're only looking at the subsidy levy portion of it. Obviously, the bond levy just portion of it stays the same. So that's $15. Obviously, that rolls off in 2026, but then you have the potential for the new bond. But a $15 annual increase. So not a large dollar amount. Percentage amount, I'm looking at least 75% increase to it, just to match up with COLA increases over the same period of time, which I think is a rational benchmark to use, plus the loss of those increases over time too. So it's kind of a compounded number. So
are they spacing out their?
But some are saying, at least one member is saying 200%. I'm like, well, what is that?
Well, that will
based
guarantee
on?
that will guarantee the next bond doesn't get passed. We do that, but
Well, and my approach is I don't think you can arbitrarily make up a number that you want to make up. To me, it just seems like you need to base it on some practical basis for the increase. That way, it's a not an easier necessary discussion to have, but it's a more logical discussion to have with the public as you go out and
so
do
is
that.
the intent to look at the subsidy this year and the bond next year, or try and do them both in the same?
No, I think that's a good question. I don't know the tenor of some of the other members of the board, but my approach has always been, hey, you got to right your financial ship first, and then let's have the bond discussion after. Because part of the bond will also necessitate another levy increase to operate the North Salt Lake facility. So to me, those are not together items. They are sequential steps that need to be taken. So that's my report on the rec center, but you got a little flavor of it tonight. Not really the true flavor in my mind of how spirited the debate is. Everybody's good about it, but there are definitely differences of opinion on how the approach should be taken.
So Spencer,
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
is there some kind of and I didn't see any summary of this in his presentation. Is there a summary available that with the 75% increase, for example, here's what it does to financial results over the succeeding 3 years? Here's how much cure we get. It seems to me that at a minimum, we've got to stop the bleeding or not let the bleeding increase. But I don't know that I support 100% fix and recovery in 1 year, if that makes sense.
Correct. So that's a good question. Tyson, back over at Battlefield City, has been an excellent resource, created a lot of models and spreadsheets for the benefit of the board where they can plug in certain assumptions and see the trend line over time to the balance that gets us where we generally think we need to be for future capital improvements. You're going to have, TIF referred to these roof repairs and the new mechanical equipment. We're going to have, it's an aging facility, and so we're going to have a lot of those repairs in the future. If the bond passes, you'll have some upgrades to locker rooms and things like that in addition to the pool expansion, but and some entrances that'll be more user-friendly, especially for ADA and senior population. But to your point, we need to not only just do a one-time fix, but it's gotta be a trend that repairs itself over time. So, like I said, Tyson's provided a spreadsheet that everybody's kind of working off of, and there's a lot of different inputs into that equation, and people are deciding which inputs they want to pull, or the levers they want to pull to get us to where we need to be.
We have talked about, and I've commented on a couple of occasions, that most retirees, not all, but most, the insurance carrier will pay an amount, I believe it's either $10 or $15 monthly for use of a recreation facility. I know that you've said you've mentioned it to them. I have a hard time feeling too sympathetic when they don't take basic steps. Now, maybe the answer is, that is such a baby step. We got bigger fish to fry and we can't do it. And if that's the answer, that's the answer. But I really think that, I know how many people I know in my age bracket that use that facility. And I have a tough time believing that they couldn't collect $10,000, but I don't know that.
So I've brought it up. I've had Council Member Meekum on an email thread to him, and I don't know, Robin, if you ever responded to him.
I haven't, no.
But if you looked at the report that Tiff presented, I think I saw 438 insured kind of silver sneakers. So I know that we're collecting some of it. Is there gaps sometimes in that? I wouldn't doubt it. And as a board, we've been sure to continue to emphasize that. I mean, you have some master swimmers in the morning that are let through. So there's a few things that we're continuing to operationally harp on that needs to tighten things up. Your point is well taken.
Okay.
If the council, as a 10 or 15 minute part of a future agenda wants to look at that spreadsheet that Tyson's provided, I'm happy to do that. And we can kind of run through at least my thought process on it as a board member representing the cities.
I would like to see it and
Does some of the council
your
would want
thoughts
to
on
see?
it.
I would be inclined, yes.
All right, so we have
We can get that on the next agenda. That would be helpful. I don't know what our next agenda looks like.
South Davis Rec update.
Yeah.
You got that, Kevin?
I wondered if what Bill was kind of trying to say was, if you found out what that amount was and you offered that to the senior citizens, it's not going to cost me anything. I might only go once a year, but my insurance is going to pay for it, so I don't care. So you could get a lot of people that would sign up for it if it equaled what the insurance was paying. So
I didn't think of it that way, but I see what you're saying.
that, to me, that was, I don't know. if
That's what I would think. I get reminders, why haven't you signed up?
Right, so that's what I'm saying is, if it's the amount that the insurance will pay, so it's not anything out of my pocket, I'm gonna sign up, and then I might go once in a while. Maybe I'll go all the time, but I would think we would make a lot on people that only
It
went.
actually is based off of scans. It's not just a one-time sign up, so
Don't they pay so much per month?
they pay.
It's an automatic billing. Once you sign up, they pay so much per month. I
And when
don't.
you sign up, your insurance pays so much
Well,
per
if you
month.
sign up for an annual pass, that might be true, but if you're.
But
doing
so what
just
I'm
a
saying is if
daily
you
pass,
had so if the insurance will pay $10, $15 a month. So if you have a senior citizen monthly pass for $15 a month, you're gonna have a ton of senior citizens that sign up for it, but probably aren't gonna be huge amount of users to add to your
Yeah,
facility.
you're talking about more promotional, informational, get the word out, hey, sign up.
Well, and I don't know what your fee is for that, whether it matches it. If it's gonna cost me more, then I'm gonna reevaluate, am I gonna use it that much? But if you have that standard fee, what
If it's a
insurances
no,
will
if it's a
pay.
no-cost sign up.
Yeah, if it's a no-cost sign-up, you're gonna get a lot of people that might only use it once in a while.
Right.
it's like the old crack fix in your windshield. If it didn't cost you anything, you'd be more than happy to get it done.
Right, right, and that's what that's what I think Bill was trying to say, was come up with that fee of what the insurance will pay and then put it out there for your senior citizens, and, you know, the ones that are using it will already still be using it, and the others will, I mean, how many things do we sign up for that we,
And then give $1 to the seniors over at the high school for the signups that they go get.
right, there you go. There you go.
Commission-based.
We'll have them out
Commission-based
going door to
signups.
door, but,
I
yeah,
made a
well,
note of it, I'll bring it up in our next.
Band candy in one hand, rec pass in the other. It works.
there you go. Anyway, that was just a thought.
Then on trails, Corey kind of alluded to it in our work session. The Trails Committee's starting to work with Corey on the trails component of updating our general plan. And he was part of our last Trails Committee meeting, giving him some guidance, some direction on things that they need to be thinking about and what they can prepare. We've got another meeting this Thursday, and I'll have an update from there. I don't think there's anything else to update the council on.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Spencer. And for all of you, wherever I can be of help with your boards and committees, let me know. I appreciated both Councilman Summerhays and Councilman McEwen reminding me of they needed a couple of appointments. I didn't know about the Trails Committee one because I hadn't got the resignation, and Jennifer hadn't either, but I contacted their chair and he sent me a copy of the resignation that had been sent to him. So obviously in staffing it, you know, I help you there, but anything else as well too, let me know. So thanks for that report.
And I may lean on you as you maybe lean out to other mayors, but.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Mayor's report. The day after we met last time, I told you the Wasatch Integrated Waste Management was meeting as the board as a whole. They did approve the purchase of the hauling equipment, and so they're going to be doing their own hauling now. The fire board, we had an intense discussion last night on the tentative budget. It was approved. The fire board has lost 8 paramedics in the last few months, most of them the Unified Fire Authority. And so a big part of that budget was increase in those salaries. The June 12th is the, so it's out there for the public to see. June 12th is the date that the board members will approve or disapprove the budget, and with it, they'll obviously be determining if they're going out to truth and taxation or coming from fund balance, you know, and how much of that in truth and taxation and how much is assessed in our assessment to cities. So that is my report. Questions? Okay. City manager report, Brent.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate it. I do have a few items. The first item, I'm actually asked Dave to come up and give us a spring runoff update. Mike showed me some pictures of him driving around today, and there's some areas where it's a little bit higher, and so tomorrow I'll go around a little bit, but Dave will give us a more accurate update.
This is the exciting time, right? Everybody's been waiting for this, see what we can do. So here we go. Did want to just bring up a couple highlights. So just to remind everybody, we started, our original high snowpack was 165 inches. Currently, we're at 55 inches. So 2/3 reduction. We knew a lot of that was going to turn into the water content, which we began our highest at 59.5. Currently, as of this morning, 32.6. So about just shy of a 50% reduction. So we're getting there.
So we're down 21 inches from 2 weeks ago, because I think you said 53 2 weeks ago, didn't you? Or was that 4 weeks ago, I think?
Yeah, so we're, so the past 7 days, we've dropped 14.5.
Okay.
So 3.6 inches like 2 days ago, right? That
We
was a
did
big day.
3.6. I'm curious on that number. We had a thunderstorm in there, but then when you look at them today, they're running a little bit higher. We've had a lot of people comment, a lot of people nervous. It'll be okay. Trust me. Trust me. And then I guess if I'll make. Trust me. We're gonna make this. So we've got some great plans in place. But yeah, over the past 3 days, we dropped 8.5. So again, that one number seemed a little off. I think that, you know, maybe the timing came in wrong, but we'll keep an eye on this. They are running a little bit high, a little quick. but we're still handling it. Nothing's leaving the banks. We're not even hitting the tops of culverts that are even our concern ones yet. We are close. So we'll just continue to monitor that. And, we've got different plans in place, be able to shuffle the water if it gets a little bit high. We already know in these specific target areas, there's about 3 or 4 right now that we're keeping an extra close eye on. Oddly enough, the upper stuff is doing great. I'd encourage you to check it out. The police have their camera at Bernard Creek that shows the basin there. We can get access to it. So that's been pretty interesting to watch, but it is flowing good.
We can get to, is there a link we can watch that?
I don't know how much access we'd be able to give, but I'd be glad to at least throw off a few still shots or whatever, to let you kind of see what's going on. But I'd really just encourage you to take a little cruise around, and it's kind of exciting to watch. But the lower areas are where we have a little more stress, if anything, but those are they're a lot easier to manage. It's get it up to the road, get it back in the creek. It's not really.
When you say lower areas, are you talking down the lower part of Pages Lane and down in the North Stake area?
Yeah, Porter Lane, Dual Creek, that is an area that gets really close to the banks. It's an area that's had some sedimentation take place in the box culverts, so we're hoping that it'll kind of scour through some of it, but Shayla Park area is one. We got a couple low bridges we've known for 12 years since we really started seeing these increases. And, but we're ready to handle those. We've got the equipment, we've got the watchful eyes on it. We haven't even got to where we've decided to pull out the help of our neighborhood networks yet. We just are, cautiously optimistic. If we can keep the kind of flows that we're seeing, realistically, based on this, we're looking before Memorial Day weekend, we could be done.
I was gonna say about 2 weeks-ish?
Yeah, if we can do our average, keep the flows consistent, we're talking maybe 2 weeks tops, 10 days. And so I feel like we're in a really great spot. The guys have done a great job. We've got a lot of, the police has been wonderful, keeping an eye in at nighttime as well. They have the areas that they check for. So it's been a great collective effort. So any questions, concerns? Okay.
Thank you.
Of course.
Mayor, do you want to give an update on the fire meeting from last night, just to give an update on their tentative budget, or I guess either you could do it or I can do it.
Well, you as administrative board would put it all.
Just in light of Councilmember Summerhays, your conversation with the South Davis Rec, there are conversations. The administrative board, we've met to discuss the the South Davis Fire's budget, and there's potentially a proposal in this current tentative budget, a 20% increase in the budget. Now, the commissioner the trustees might go less than that, but that's our proposal, because we
20% increase in the tax.
in the property tax, sorry. In the property tax, 5% still in our assessments. But what that does is potentially, on an average home that you discussed, about $450,000, I would say it's about a $20 to $25 increase for those homes for the entire year. So that's being discussed because the South Davis Fire has been using a lot of fund balance to balance the budget over the years. Last year, you may not, historically, just give you a background, I think it was last year, maybe it was the year before that, South Davis proposed a 40% increase to our member assessments.
2 years ago.
Just 2 years ago. That would have been a $400,000 increase to our budget. And that's where I said, what the heck is happening here? And pushed back, and that's why you saw a 35% increase in the property tax increase. Or it would have been on us as our assessments, and I pushed back saying, this has got to start being your argument, because I have to go out for a property tax increase to pay your assessment. And it's easier if you just make that argument for your sake. And so we've been using a lot of fund balance to that point to make things work and make it happen. So now we have a fund balance policy of 20% of their revenues. So we have now a goal, objective of next year is $3.7 million to have that sitting in reserves. So to maintain those reserves, we are proposing a 20% property tax increase with hopefully no increase for 3 years. And then another increase might need to be evaluated at that point. The other option is using 100% fund balance But then you're really dipping into your reserves, and then you're gonna see a 30% increase next year, and then potentially another 10% increase the year after that. One proposal is seeing maybe a 10% increase.
Little proposal.
My proposal was 10 to 15%, see where the budget goes, and then maybe another 10 to 15% the next year.
And
But
so
as
the
of right now, the recommendation is 20% from the administrative
And the
committee.
question, I think that, I mean, maybe not the question, but the analysis is if you lose 8,
Paramedics.
well, were they paramedics or firefighters?
Oh, he said paramedics.
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 If you lose 8 of them, what was your replacement cost as opposed to just increasing their pay?
So that's the challenge, right? So losing 8, you can't compete against unified fire, right? You can't. But we do need to find a way to keep the 8 that we lost were between 5 to 8 years in service. So we're losing that middle range. So the workforce is getting younger and younger and younger. And we're losing them to other agencies or retiring out. So that's kind of where we are now, and really big cost of this, a $1.1 million increase for next year is they're changing their pay scale, their pay grades to, instead of 11-step to a 9-step, and then they did a compensation study. And so they're just addressing the compensation study. So again, just keep that in mind as we go through this. There's going to be potentially South Davis Rec, the fire, it might have also an increase in their property tax rate.
Well, just throwing in on a personal note, who has a friend whose son is a firefighter, I much prefer that those who are coming and making life and death decisions make more than the kid flipping hamburgers. So, I really support giving them pay to be commensurate with the skills and the job we're asking them to do.
And that's been my position. Again, just what we went through with the police last year. Again, we've really got to evaluate our public safety, and whatever that increase is, we really need to be looking at the way we approach this. And I think Chief Stone's done a great job with the new pay grade, the scales. I think that makes more sense. Instead of 11, it's 9. But anyway, I think it's been a good exercise this last few weeks over the budget. But anyway, just give you an update on the fire side. And then lastly, two things. This week is Police Appreciation Week, so thank you to all the officers. So we had the Fallen Officers Memorial was on what day, Alan? Yesterday. So we have 3 officers out there, including the chief. We have 4 officers out there, and so Luann shared in pictures, and it was, again, a great experience for the officers to be out there and escort the families to the memorial, and I think Chief was able to be in charge of a bus. Anyway, I think that's just such a great event, and so we celebrate police this week. I was mistaken. I thought Public Works Appreciation Week was this week as well, but I do want to also recognize our Public Works crew who do a phenomenal job. I think, what I've learned through this Leadership Academy is we have some of the best employees I've ever worked with, and getting to know them at leadership level has been really great. And I've got to find a way to keep all of our employees here. I don't want to lose any of them. I think we've got a great amount of experience, but I think we're really working well together. Each department has worked really well together.
Say kudos to the Public Works for the sign enforcement. You guys are doing a great job of that. Frontage Road turns into a as wanted, kind of district a couple of times a week, it seems like right now. And when I call and say, hey, we're painted with signs again, you're really fast about taking them down. I appreciate that. It does make our community look a lot better to have that policed up, which, see, that's how I'm going to shoehorn in a question.
But I won't know where to invest my money.
Well, yes, I mean, you can always make $140,000 at home on a piece of cardboard that's done with Sharpie. But my concern is that we seem to have some businesses that continually violate our sign ordinances. I know that Public Works has picked up signs from a specific company more than once, because I've called and they've done it more than once. What do we do about non-resident companies that do that? And can we increase enforcement? Because it's whack-a-mole, and I get tired of wasting Public Works time to go pick up signs from businesses that aren't to make $140,000 a piece of cardboard. It's a professionally manufactured sign. They're sticking in the public right away.
I'm going to defer to the city attorney for that question.
Well, if the question is treating non-residents or non-Centerville businesses, I think we need to enforce our sign ordinance across the board equally. But you can certainly do more sign enforcement. Our code is a complaint basis, but it also provides the city with the opportunity to, if there's areas of specific concern or safety issues. So this could be a, concern, but yes, I would just say if there's signs in the public right-of-way and they don't meet our code, then, have a conversation with the city manager and we'll implement it.
Would they've been removed? So the question is repeat offenders. Is there any
Right.
sort of financial?
How do we stop them from doing it? Because, and Public Works probably has better stories on this for areas around town that you've policed up signs, but when it's the same group putting the signs back in a couple days later.
Well, I think we just take them down. So if you would like actual enforcement, we can start at a civil penalty, and we do have treble damages the more you violate, and also you can go the criminal enforcement. But if it's in the zoning code, it's likely an infraction. But anyway, there's certainly more. I don't want to speak for Public Works, but I suspect we're just taking them down. We're not actually giving them a civil penalty.
Sorry, I love how I just shoehorn this in there, but are you seeing repeat offenders, or is that just something I'm seeing on frontage road? Can you speak to that just briefly? Because it is a time sink for Public Works and not a primary activity that you should be involved with, but it's the same groups over and over and over again.
Mike, this is where you pitch for the enforcement of.
Well, I already told him I appreciated him for doing,
The enforcement officer?
What do you find in the pile down there?
Mosquitoes. We find the mosquitoes.
Who's in charge?
That's the hugest one. I mean, our guys spend,
Actual mosquitoes or mosquito removal?
Yeah, you flew right in.
well, either way, Nate wants me to take a long time here.
That was hilarious.
No, the guys go out, they'll spend every Monday morning, probably an hour and a half, 2 hours running through the main areas, picking up the signs and that. We don't call and ask them to come and get them. They hardly ever come and get them. So it's like, as fast as we pick them up, I don't know what they're making out of it. So.
Right, that's what I would say. Faster we pick them up, that's gonna be the deterrent, is they've gotta pay for those signs, and they're not super cheap. And the faster, if they know they're gonna be picked up within a day, maybe they'll move to another town to put them up.
Well, I don't know that they will. My point is that if you've done this more than once and it's become like Monday is drive through town and enforce, if it's the same groups, I think we're at the point of putting them on notice that you need to knock it off because you're into enforcement territory now. Because if we just keep removing them and say nothing,
Right.
they're just gonna keep sticking them up all
Well,
over
we
town.
grab them all the time. I pick them up, not all the time, but frequently I'll pick them up. I've got one in my truck right now that, we'll stop, pick them up. I think getting them out of there as fast as you can should deter them. I don't know whether it
But
does or
George is
not.
right, if we just send a letter out saying, we know it's you, stop it.
And that's where I'm just asking for whatever creates the least amount of nuisance for us is, sure, the make 148,000 on a piece of cardboard, take it down, we don't really care, we're not gonna chase that down. But if it is a professional organization that is trying to solicit business in our public right-of-ways all the time, that's getting old. Whether it's mosquitoes or others.
So I don't know if I answered any questions at all, but
Well, we appreciate the answers.
But
Nate hates me right now.
Did Nate just lose? No. Not yet.
All right, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor, unless there's any questions for me.
Questions for Brett? Okay, anything else from anybody? Motion to adjourn?
All moved.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye.